everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Adobe Live. And you can see that here with me today, we have a very special guest. Welcome to Jimmy Bryant. Thank you so much for joining us, Jimmy.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being able to be on this platform after using these programs all my life.
Well, we cannot wait to dive in and learn more about your experience with the programs and in general, your experience and life as a designer. But before, I'm just going to do a little bit of a housekeeping, of course, welcoming everybody that is joining us here. And if you're new to Adobe Live, remember, you can always join us on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to be part of the amazing Adobe Live community. We stream pretty much every day, all day, and it's a fantastic place where you can find inspiration and learn more about your favorite apps. Well, today, Jimmy, is all about you. So I'm going to be asking you a few questions. Of course, we have amazing people that are joining us live. Let us know, where are you watching from? I'm always very excited to learn where the amazing international community is tuning in. You'll see we have people dropping in and watching from all over the world. I can see Alejandro, Andrew, Josie, Catherine, Barbara, Umacron. Thank you so much for being here. But now, enough of me talking. It's all about you. And please introduce yourself. Tell them more about who you are.
So my name is Jimmy Bryant. I have a brand called Atomicchild. This is a brand that I created for my love of the outdoors. I do this full time. At one time in my life was a freelancer, and another time in my life I worked for other people. But now, since about 2017, I've been working for myself, building my own outdoor apparel brand based on all the designs that I create and put on products. So I like to consider myself a commercial artist. That's what I do full time. Yeah, I can't.
Oh, here I am. Sorry. I got all these habits from all the calls. When other people talk, I tend to mute myself. So, but I'm back here. I was just saying that I love the name Atomicchild. You just mentioned that you are the founder of Atomicchild. I find this name extremely memorable, and I wanted to know, how did you come up with the name Atomicchild?
So as any art school student has to do, you start looking into all the different artists and creative people that you like. And when I was 20 years old, my favorite artist was Keith Haring. If people don't know, I'm sure most people do here. Very famous pop artist in the 80s. He had a painting or a drawing that he did called The Radiant Baby. And at that time, I needed to come up with a different name besides Jimmy Bryant, which is the most generic name in the world. You could type that in and it's like a guitarist comes up or something. So I came up with Atomicchild based off of that. And I never thought that 5 years later, I would still be using that name that I created as a college student.
That's exciting. And definitely successful then. I mean, that's the beauty of brands and names, to last in years. And that's definitely, it's happening. So to be fair, when I learned that I was gonna host you, I started to like dig in and go on your social media and watch a little bit of your videos. And I heard you speaking on stage about the beginning of your work as a professional, as a designer, and how you started. So I would love to use this time and this space with you for you to share your motivation and what brought you to pursue a career in design.
So, I mean, initially, I think it's pretty much like everybody. You're creative as a kid. I was lucky enough to have a family, parents that were encouraging. They didn't ever tell me at a certain age I needed to stop. So I kind of did that all my life, drew. Then I had to go to college to get a real job. This is the late 90s. You went to college, that's what you were supposed to do. So I found an art college here in Denver, Colorado. I went to that not knowing anything because I grew up on a farm. My only kind of intro into art was cartoons, from the 80s and comic books. That's pretty much what I had for influence. So I went to art college. Did illustration. Back then, you were still the only kind of digital art was still new. So I was still doing stuff for newspapers, magazines. That was kind of the jobs that you could get. And I just kind of did freelance forever, doing that here and there. It wasn't really successful. I had a regular job working in the construction industry. And then eventually, by the time I was about 30, I had a midlife crisis, and I was like, "What am I doing with my life? I'm working at this job that I, don't necessarily enjoy." So I just jumped right into trying to like do freelance. I had started doing band merchandise design. I basically spent a decade doing band merch design, basically just after work, just freelance work. So I've worked for, you can see on my website, I worked for a ton of different bands. I did that. It's not really it's a hard field to be super successful in just because of the pay structure and how spec work is most of what the music industry is. So I did that for a long time, sort of successful in that. And then I was just like, I didn't know what else to do. I wanted to stop working my regular job. And then I finally found a job where I was working at a place creating products for people. And that was what really just kind of like opened up my mind. I was like, why am I not? I like making designs for products. Why am I not putting my designs on products? And that's kind of the very start of where this is now. But that didn't happen until I was almost 36. I was way later in life, like not in my early 20s, like a lot of people think. I mean, after I graduated college, I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was a failure. I wasn't getting any work. I just had this super expensive private college art degree. And I was just like, so it happened later in life. And I like to tell people that because I think a lot of people feel this weight, this like you have to get out of your college and be super successful. And I think if you keep at your craft, keep honing it, show people what you're doing, and get out there in the real world, there is a possibility that it can happen for you at different times in your life, but only if you keep doing that thing.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more. I have a very similar parallel story. I come from like PR and events, and I ended up finally following my passion for creativity. So into working in design. So I'm really, really happy to share this space with you because I everything that you were saying like incredibly resonate. And I started really late, So I love
Yeah.
that you push that because a lot of people and a lot of creatives that also support, they feel almost deflated and they feel like they have no opportunities after, especially after I would say 27, 30. If you've not found and if you're not doing what you love, is a very hard spot to be.
Yeah, I think the societal pressures start to mount the older you get, especially like even people who were supportive of you. They're like, "You're 33 now. What are you doing with your life?" Yeah, I'm still driving truck and delivering construction equipment. So yeah, it can get harder the older you are, but it's definitely worth it to keep at it.
Absolutely. And you talked about the fact that you're happy to be here, that you use the products in terms of like all the software, Adobe software, but in the entire Adobe Create Cloud, is there a product that you will say is your favorite? If you have to take a product on an island, which Adobe
Oh,
Creative Cloud product would you take?
I am a Photoshop person through and through. That's the one thing that I mean, I use Illustrator when I have to, but I'm a Photoshop person. I'm kind of in the school of keep it simple. I think, especially nowadays, like there is so much to learn and know, and it's always changing. And I definitely with Photoshop and with the Adobe Suite is just like finding the thing that gets the project done, gets my artwork done. And I kind of keep it simple. Like I'm a pretty simple person when it comes to designing. Like I've been using Photoshop for basically 25 years now, and I'm probably using maybe 5 tools, and it hasn't changed. I keep it simple. It doesn't have to be crazy. So I know sometimes people are like, I need to know all these things and all this stuff has changed. But I think if you can find those things that work for you, it doesn't have to be super complicated. Obviously, it depends on your style. My style is obviously the current style that I do is not like super detailed. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be super crazy with that. Like you'll see, I don't even use shortcut keys. Like I'm one of those guys.
Well, then I think the next question probably gave us the opportunity to start to dive in your work and your examples, because I find it extremely fascinating that you focus only on Photoshop. I come from PR and marketing, so probably the fact that I've not like a background in graphic design got me like hungry to discover all the apps and try to express myself using all the app, but I think it's amazing that you stick to your tools. And to be fair, I know there's some of the most successful people that's their secret recipe. Like, find your way, find your workflow. It doesn't matter what other people do. Just find what works for you and keep at it. And sounds like that's what your workflow looks like. So why don't we start to like dive into your product, into your process, because I would love to see like different stages and really like on a practical way. Like I would love for people that they are here watching and following, to learn, how do you refine your design? What is the process? What are the steps that tools like Photoshop will help you to build your project?
Sure. So I think first thing is first, I'm going to be starting this process with 25 years of knowledge and creating designs. I'm not the best designer in the world for sure, but this is just how I do it. So I think when you start, especially when I was new, you want to have sketches. You want to like plan all that out. It helps so much. But now that I've been doing this for so long and that I'm really into my certain niche and I'm kind of like have this all nailed down, I don't really do any prep work. I'll show you what I do in this current style that I'm working on. Um, but having a good sketch and a good idea is very helpful until you're kind of down the road and you know what you're doing and you don't need to kind of do all that. So I don't do any of that now. So basically, I kind of had two different styles. I kind of had that bold, thick line style to begin with. And then over the years, I've kind of evolved into this more illustrative style that I currently do. And the inspiration with this really started with kind of a love for like patches. And then I was in the Boy Scouts as a kid. So like, I just had those patches on me. And so I really started looking like at vintage patches, a place where I used to work. My buddy Jeremy, he was really into vintage stuff, is into vintage stuff. So I really sent me down this line of like looking at vintage patches. And so vintage Boy Scout patches is kind of where I started the beginning of this current style years ago, and I've kind of morphed it. So I really wanted to kind of show that as the starting point and kind of how the style evolved. Like I can show you here. Like this is like an original Boy Scout patch. And the thing I love about this is it's one color, and I think we all can agree that if you can knock out a really good one color design, those are the best designs. Super hard to do. I hardly ever do them, but man, if you can knock out a one color design, I think everybody loves those. So that's what really impressed me about, it was probably in the 50s, 30s, 40s. They didn't have the option to screen print a bunch of different colors. Probably somebody in the garage was making these, way different. So they had one color and they really didn't get too detailed. Like you can see, these are all pretty simple shapes and forms. You can look online and Boy Scout patches. I mean, there's so many different ones. It's crazy. So many awesome ones. And then there's like different stuff. So this one's like a felt that's been screen printed on. Same with this guy. This is like a high school one. All the
Oh
different
wow.
shapes are really rad. I love this like involving the type inside this like logs. Like how cool is that? Who would do that now? It just seems so messy. I love it. And then there's like embroidery. So it helps to keep the design super simple if you're doing embroidery. So that's kind of like my inspiration. And then, so basically what I do is like this hat here is a bear shape, and then I kind of create inside.
I was gonna ask
Yeah.
about the bear because I love bears and those are my favorite colors. Oh God. And then you got the ear with the sun. Oh,
Yeah. So I love to incorporate like obviously different, like this is one where I take a shape and like make it into the face. Um,
wow.
So
So
that works out
amazing.
pretty well. But what I like to do is with these old patches is they have so many different shapes and sizes and they're all wonky. It's not like there just wasn't precise like it is now. So what I'll do is I try to like dig through, obviously Pinterest, Google, you just find all these different felt patches. And so like I just find one like this, like I like the shape. And then I'll just go ahead and trace the shape of the item because I like that weird wonky shape that in my head, I would never be like, let's throw together this shape and smash it with a rectangle. And that makes sense. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's usually what I do is I find a cool shape I'm definitely a person who like, I love to fill a shape with art. That's what I do. That's where I start. So it kind of helps me in the process. I don't have to like, if I can have a container, then I can kind of do what I do. I guess I'm kind of like a doodle artist in that way, where they have a container and then they just fill that container with a bunch of different shapes, whereas I'm filling it with an illustration.
Amazing.
So if you like, I can show you my super secret design tools that I use, okay?
Yes, yes, please.
All right, I go over here, I grab the brush, I opened it up, and I just grab the hard round brush. Okay.
Ooh, let's see.
And another thing, I think a lot of people these days, they think you need an iPad, they think you need a Wacom tablet, all those different devices. Now, I'm going to show you, this is what I've been designing with for 25 years.
Drum roll, please.
A mouse. I don't use anything else, just a mouse. So once again, it doesn't have to be complicated. Obviously, different styles require different techniques, but you can keep it simple. I'm using a brush that is standard to the program, and I'm using a mouse that, they could design it a little better here. We all know this, but I'm just using the standard mouse. So basically what I like to do is today, I'll do like a camp scene. And really what I do is I kind of start to fill out the object on the edges. Like in some of my other work here, like you can just see, like I just start filling out all different shapes and everything. Obviously, this is ocean. It's not going to be like some of my other ones. But yeah, so I just, like I said, I've been doing this so long, I can kind of knock it out. So the cool thing about, like, with what I'm doing and doing these simpler shapes is that I kind of have like already a built-in like iconography,
Mhm.
if that's the word, set of things like that I do. So I already know like to start drawing those certain things. Especially when we're just doing one color. But I mean, really, it's just about taking the shape and then just start, like I want to draw a rock. I'm doing this with the mouse. It's nothing crazy. It's one color. And then I just start filling it in. And then it's just building it up from here. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. I think that's the best part about this kind of style is that when they were printing those, like it's very forgiving. Like it doesn't have to be precise. I've never been a person who likes to be very precise. And the fact that my subject is nature,
Mhm.
um, it's easy to sit here and go like a hand should look like this, right? Obviously, but you're like a rock should look like whatever, grass. So that really helps with the style. And then as you can see from the patch samples, like it's all very, it's all very simple. I mean, it obviously makes a silhouette. You can really see the items in the design, but just keeping it simple. Um, and then kind of having an idea of what I'm doing. Like if I was doing this for a client, most likely what I would do is take this bottom area here, this part of the patch that you see here obviously has type in it. So I would take obviously whatever the thing was if I was doing some kind of collaboration, and I would probably fill it in there. But when I create artwork for myself, um, and maybe this is just kind of like the view of the commercial artist, like I like to make the artwork and then let the consumer, the customer, the fan, the person who's purchasing the artwork, I like to let them put their meaning into the art and let them feel however they want about it. I don't need it to say anything super particular. I just want them to be able to connect with it in their way. Because I feel like when you're selling something as a product, obviously there's ways to, you can have a say whatever, but I really am trying to like market I want my things to get in as many people's hands as possible so that as many people as can enjoy that. And I think if they're allowed to put their meaning into it, that really helps with that as well.
I completely agree. And there is so much love for you and for your work in the chat. Everybody is really enjoying it, from the topic of doing patches, from the old school Boy Scout stuff. Everybody is really, really showing a lot of love and appreciation. And something that I noted as well while you were talking is there's so much freedom in the way you work. And then you mentioned nature with, of course, It's our freedom space and place where we can be free, and nature is free. So I love that, and I love that as part of your process, and I cannot wait to see the way that you built the project.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the fun. I think the fun thing about nature is it's pretty open to everybody's interpretation, which is awesome.
Amazing. So while you work, I might have another question because we have a lot of questions to go
Oh
through
yeah,
today.
ask away. I kind of work by staring at my screen, so I'll have to remember to look up. I'm one of those people that sits like so. This is how I usually would be. Like I'm just like 2 inches away from my screen, like trying with the mouse. So
That's part of the secret. So far we have the hard round brush tool, the mouse, and then the close up
yes,
gaze to the screen.
yes.
Those are the
The
top three.
the burning of the retina with your Mac on its brightest setting. Yes.
And my question was about, the use of Photoshop, the fact that you so passionately said Photoshop, 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 my tools, these few tools, which I love and I stick to. So what is the reason behind this choice? How come the Photoshop became, is the fact that you use Photoshop that sort of morphed your style and the way you work, or is the way that you work that sort of requested for Photoshop to be your tool of choice?
Okay, so I may have one of the better stories of why because I grew up in a time
I'm
where
getting comfortable here.
I wasn't using digital artwork, and so what happened is I worked in the band merch industry, and most of the time I would draw it out, scan it on. I had a little scanner. Remember the days where you had to like put a piece of paper on your scanner and you had to move it around to get the whole image, like, and then put it back together in Photoshop. So really, I was doing that and I was coloring it with Photoshop. But one year, it wasn't my best year ever. I tried to go work for myself. I didn't plan anything. I didn't put any money aside. So guess what happens when that happens? I went broke and I had to go live with my parents when I was 32 years old. That's where I was. So here's what happened. One, my parents needed to get a redo the roof on their house. And I was still getting projects and making money that way. And so I was helping my father put a roof on the house. And I fell off the roof and broke. I have a scar here,
Ouch,
and I
ouch.
broke my hand where I draw. So I still needed to make money, and it was one of those things where it took like 6 to 8 months. So I was forced to learn digital stuff in Photoshop, digital. I had to start photo manipulating and doing all that for band shirts because I couldn't go in and draw everything like I was. So that's what really at 32 falling off a roof, breaking my wrist. I was doing band merch. If anybody's ever done that before, that stuff is quick turns. They're on you the next day. They want it. So that forced me into using Photoshop, and I just have always used it since then and just kind of kept refining what I was doing. I don't really do photo manipulation and all that stuff anymore. But a cool thing about, I think, when you start out and you kind of find, like even doing freelance is cool when you don't have a style because I think when you're younger, and not even when you're younger, I mean, I was 33, so I wasn't that young. But I just think when you're working and it's giving you all these different styles and things and techniques to try out, it forces you to, try the different programs. Like, obviously, at one point I started working in a screen print factory where we like did shirts and everything, and they were like, I want Illustrator files, I want Illustrator files, and I was like, you're getting Photoshop files. um, but so eventually I had to learn Illustrator. So the my favorite part about Illustrator was when they introduced the live trace tool. Oh, that made my life so much better because when somebody needed a file, I could just drop my image in there and live trace it and send them the file, so I didn't have to try to build it in there. So that's how I started using Photoshop for more than just coloring a piece of art.
Amazing. So, you could have write your email, say, by the way, when your Illustrator file, it was a Photoshop file. I just pressed the image trace button and here we go.
I know, and like I've even, I've used Procreate and I loved it, but it's just not the same thing. I just couldn't get into it the way that I've just been using my Photoshop for all these years.
And it looks like, for your amazing story, Photoshop became almost like your hand crutch to help you through in the moment in which you like still needed to be so productive and you were injured. So I think you kind of like bonded as well. Is that possible? That you
Yeah, I
actually
mean,
bonded with the experience and it just helped you to get it done.
yeah, I mean, and then just learning to not have to create a actual hand-drawn piece first, especially when you're creating products, like especially now in 2024, like everybody wants a digital file. There's nobody that's like, take a picture of your thing. It just doesn't ever, you have to have digital files now. So
Absolutely. Amazing. And you were talking about your career, and as I mentioned before, we have a lot of viewers here that are in different moments of their life and their careers. I get a lot of DM through my work with people that say, I'm doing this job, but I wanted to be a photographer, but I'm stuck in a job. So I love the passion in which you turn into work for yourself. Can you tell us more about it?
yeah, I mean, I think the real answer to that is we all have to make money to live. And so getting a regular job to pay your bills is so smart. And it also takes the stress off of freelance. Like I remember the first time I tried freelance when I was like 25, or maybe I was older, like 20, 28, 29. I just jumped into it. Like I had some clients, but I didn't have anything solid lined up. And I didn't have any backup. So when people would bring me a project, I just said yes to everything. And then that's when you kind of get in this really bad moment. You're just taking in any work and it's not necessarily work you need because you have nothing saved up. There's no plan B. It's like, I got to do everything. And then that kind of leads to a lot of really, really hard times. And I didn't work out. But my biggest thing is if you want to truly work for yourself, um, I think you really should have 5 to 6 months at least, like some kind of savings, at least pay your rent. Like my biggest thing when I jumped into it, finally, the time that it worked was I need to have something to cover rent. So I had some money saved up, but also I found a utility client where I made sure to find a person that would pay my rent. So I was like, whatever I'm doing for them, it's going to be the price of my rent. And then as long as my rent is paid, I can make everything else kind of it can sit to the side until it needs to. So that would pay my rent, and then I could do for the rest of the week, I could do all the different projects that would come in for freelance. I think it's just being prepared and not just jumping into it without any of those thoughts. Because if you don't have any kind of financial backup, then it gets really difficult because you have to say yes to everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. I remember path in my life in which I got stuck doing business card because there was rent money. And I really, I think being resilient and really wanting to depends how much you want your dream to come true. So sometimes you have to, as you said, sort of work through this hard time, but making sure that you stay with your feet grounded. So I think it's a very realistic advice, the fact of having, making sure that your bills are paid, but don't give up on the dream. Just try to organize yourself so you can keep going. And did you selected project, when you were talking about your bill project, right? The one that will make sure that your bills are paid. Did you
Yep.
have like a client in particular? Because in my case, I just found the client who, needed to basically he got his business from his dad. He inherited the business. So I was very lucky because he had to redo everything. So it gave me at least a year in which he had to do a new logo, a new website, new catalogs, and that kind of allowed me to start to work on my own. What
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah. I think when you do kind of take on that job, if you can find something that is obviously what you want to do, then fantastic. Most of the time, that's not going to be what it is. So what I was is I did art directing for like a local soda company here in Colorado, and I literally did everything from label design, ads, catalogs, sell sheets, so they could go out and sell the soda. I mean, all the things that me personally, as a person who likes to illustrate and draw, just you have to do layouts and all that. I was like, ah, stuff I didn't want to do, but it's like, do I want to do that or have a regular 9 to 5 job? So I was like, of course I'm going to do that. I have the skills to do it. I can do it. So I think, making sure that you're, even if it's a little bit of what you don't want to do, that you have a goal in mind of where this is going to take you. Almost everybody's going to have to do stuff they don't want to do. I mean, there are few people in the world that get lucky and get to do whatever they want, but I think the journey, it's more for most of us, is going to go down the path of you're going to have to do some uncomfortable stuff, as far as just not have a lot of money, not be doing the thing you want exactly, but as long as you have a goal in mind and where that path is going, I think it's totally worth it.
Totally. And did you have like a specific challenge that you would say that you've encountered, either with clients, with a job, like something that, kind of made you think maybe I'm gonna give up?
I mean, there was a lot of stuff where I was taking on projects that, like, I was like redesigning like candy bar wrappers and stuff. I mean, that was just like the farthest thing from what I wanted to do. And there's just so many like health things that have to be on there, and things have to be laid out very specific certain ways, and things have to be very specific sizes, because it's all monitored by the government. So that kind of stuff was just driving me crazy. I think the hardest part about designing for yourself, even when you have contracts and everything is laid out and the project is over, people get real excited while they're working with you, and then as soon as the project's over, they're moving on to their next project. So getting paid, that was like so hard, and like just the constant chasing after that, even with contracts. I mean, it definitely helps and you can get paid, but that was probably the most frustrating thing, is to do all that work and then just spend the next few months being like, can I please get paid,
Amazing. And in terms of, your brand, and you were talking a lot about the fact that you create all these amazing products. And actually, before I move forward to this question, I just wanted to say the way that you were talking about the struggle, it just sort of emphasized even more the importance of freedom in your design and in what you do, because it looked like for you, hell was to have that sort of structure of having to do this layout and these things that were dictated to you. So that was like your freedom was gone. So you just kind of claimed it back, with your business.
Yeah, I was definitely one of those people. Like, this isn't the best way to be, but I was definitely one of those people. As soon as a revision came in, I was like, I'm done. Like, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So,
Done. Bye. Goodbye. I'm closed.
yeah, no more, please. So, yeah, that was definitely like being in control of my own path, and like finding a place where my artwork actually fits. I think too, like that was the hardest part for me, was that all I was doing was trying to connect with other designers and get approval from other designers or other creative people. And as we all live in this space, it seems like it's like this, but this world is so small. And I was only seeking approval from those people. And I'm not the best artist. I'm not the most exciting guy in the world. So like nobody cared. I wasn't getting anywhere. And so like I thought, because I wasn't receiving that feedback online, because that's the only kind of feedback I was having, that nobody liked my artwork. There was no value in it. And I felt like, why am I doing, like, I know I love to do this, but why am I doing this? Like, it's literally not doing anything as far as monetarily and helping me live a life. So like I did that for years. And the biggest thing for me was when I actually made a product and I went out into the quote unquote real world, and I sold my products to just regular average day consumers. And like my first show, I think it was like 2 days, and I did like $500 to $800 in sales, right? Now that changed my whole mind, because I was like, wait a second, people do like my artwork and people do value my products. So I think if all you've ever done is searched in our small sphere, go outside of that sphere if you want to sell products, because you're going to have to. Because most people, 99.9, 99.5% of the people in the world, they're not working in the creative field. So that was a huge change of my frame of mind. I was like, oh, actually, people do like my artwork. There is a place for this. So that was the biggest thing for me, was just I was so concerned with trying to get the approval of other creatives that I was kind of blinding myself to all the opportunities that there was for my artwork.
And people were out there saying like, hey, we want to buy your stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, if you like to make products, then I think anybody an extra $500 or $800 on the weekend that's life changing, you know.
Absolutely. We have a question from you for you. So does Jimmy vectorize his work for his products? So do you actually product request Illustrator?
Only if somebody twists my arm. No, I mean, I do if I have to send it away. Sometimes I have to vectorize it, and like I said, I just use Live Trace now. But I create everything in Photoshop, and it's all 300 DPI, and it works great. I mean, I hardly have any issues. If there are issues with it, other people have been dealing with it, and I haven't known about it. But as long as you're doing a high res file, um, it's you really don't need to worry about it, especially these days. There's so many ways to um, change the quality of it with other programs too. So as long as you're doing a high res file, no. But I don't purposely vectorize anything if I don't have to.
Yeah, I think that's the best tip using Photoshop. Remember that the size, you really have to think about your output and when your art is gonna land when you start with your design. That's probably like top tip if you
Yeah.
are
I
keen
mean, I did a
into.
mural that was 30 feet long, 12 feet high. I just did that file in Photoshop at half the size at 150 DPI because that's just what those printers print, and it was fine.
Mhm. Have you ever like landed into a PSB?
I have used those before, but no, I mean maybe that one was because it was so huge. I would have to look. But yeah,
Yeah,
usually they're just regular Photoshop files.
yeah. It just came to mind because of the mural scale.
Especially something like this where it's just a small patch or it's going to be a sticker or something like that.
So
Definitely love the questions. Love answering those.
you were talking about, selling products. So you finally brought your products out there. You came out of your zone of getting approval of the designer crowd. Where did you actually started to sell your products? So can you give like some tip, practical tip that people that would like to sell and start to taste the customers and
Yeah.
what are the steps?
So for me, the biggest change was finding local markets I'm lucky I live in Denver, Colorado. There's so many markets, but there's art markets, there's beer festivals, there's farmers markets, there's so many different types of festivals going on here. So I just basically you find one and then you go do it, and then you're gonna talk to other people there, and they're gonna tell you about other markets, and then you keep doing them. Now, it's one of those things where it's another point where you could go do one and it could just be not your crowd and do bad, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you should definitely not give up after one because they can be brutal if it's not your crowd. And that does happen depending on where it is, depending if it's out in the country, or it can be so many different types of people. But finding you got to do probably five, and if you do five and they're all not measuring whatever your version of success is, and I think that's another thing this day and age with social media, and we're all watching everybody and seeing what it is. All you need to do is find your version of success. It doesn't have to be a success that anybody else, you don't have to measure it again. I mean, we all do, I still do it, but in my mind, all you need to do is find your version of success and make yourself happy with what you're doing. And then that's the best thing you can do. I know that's very hard these days. Obviously, we're swiping, it's all there. But yeah, it's just you need to do multiple markets, and then as soon as you get in that, you're gonna find all these other people that are doing markets, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, do this one. This is really good, and this one's really good." So you just got to get in there, and then all the information will start coming to you. Just don't be one of those people that does this and then sits behind your table, whatever it is that you have, and doesn't talk to anybody. You have to talk to people. You have to network in real life. I know it's awkward at first. I was definitely awkward at first. I was one of those people where I just sat in a room and I'd like to draw. I didn't want to talk to anybody. But now it's like I've talked to thousands and thousands of people doing these markets. Like just last year, I think I didn't do them all, obviously, but we did like 150 markets locally. So you'll get over it real quick.
And did that influence the way you create your work after approaching the market? Like, did you change your products? It's been
Yeah,
any.
yeah. I mean, you're gonna take obviously when you're creating a brand that's just based around what you want to do. You kind of have your own like if I want to do this or not. But if you're making a bunch of stuff and people are like, why don't you make this? Why don't you make this? And obviously, some of that you're gonna kind of have to put through a filter. But I really only started with like probably 4 or 5 stickers because I was just one of those people. I was like, who buys stickers? Like, I don't know. And then I was getting all the people like, you should make more stickers, make more stickers, make more stickers, you know? So like, I was like, okay, fine, I'll make more stickers. So now we have over 300 different sticker designs that I've done, and we've sold millions of stickers at this point. So it's just like, you can take those and like create products from that. But you do have to put it through a filter because people are going to tell you everything under the sun. So if you hear it 20 times, yeah, then probably something you should look into if you want to do it.
So people love stickers. We definitely got that.
Oh, it's especially in Colorado, like it's very outdoorsy. Everybody has, especially this day and age, everybody has the same water bottle, everybody has the same laptop, and everybody's trying to make them look unique, you know?
Yeah, and they go in their car, on their laptop, and definitely. But I love stickers myself as well. I actually have like plastic covers for my laptop so I can have different collection of stickers. It
Oh,
makes
very
sense.
smart. Nice.
So that I can swap them around depending on how I feel. But in terms of markets now, so you say that you've done so many. Do you still do locally, just in Colorado, or where people can find your product?
As far as markets, we do those pretty much locally here in Colorado. When I go to design conferences, I usually take stuff there and sell them there as well. I have done Designer Con before. Hopefully, I can do that again this year. Hopefully, maybe Adobe. I don't know, that would be fun. But so we do local markets, but really the main what I'm doing here is we're selling wholesale and online. So we're nationwide in REI with our stickers and like pretty soon a couple of our fanny packs. One is there now. So that's kind of been the biggest driver. Like you get into a big retail store like that, and then people really start to trust your brand because like, oh, you have to go through all the back end stuff that you have to do to work with a huge retailer like that. And then also they know that you can fulfill those orders that are coming in every week, every other week, however long you have it set up. So that really builds trust and gets you into a lot of other different places. We're in national parks. I'm going to do just a special trade show next month in San Francisco that's just for national parks. Like, so there's all kinds of places to go and like find new customers and people that enjoy your work.
Amazing. So now, like, this reply got me so many other question going. In terms of, first of all, congratulations. That's amazing. And just to, be able to get there, I think for someone that just started and wanted to do his own thing in Photoshop is an amazing step to get to go to retailers nationwide. Just even, dealing with that. And that's my question. Like, how did you build these strategies? Like, how did you go from I love to sketch this stuff because I love it inside Photoshop and to, building a strategy to get noticed by retailers first and then, the entire process. I don't even know anything about it.
So really it started with doing markets. And then before I got into any large retails, I started getting into local retailers. And that's really how it starts. And then a couple more stores pick you up. And then as soon as you can tell people like, oh, I'm in this store and I'm in this store, then it just kind of gets the ball rolling. They know that's where your products sell. And if they're like, well, my store's kind of like that, it should work here. That really helps you get into a lot of different places. As far as like a larger retail, I mean, that was just something that happened because I was doing shows. Like one of my friends that was doing markets was like, hey, would you like to be an REI? And I was just like, yeah, sure. Like not thinking that that would happen. And then through about another year's worth of process, have to go up there, have to fly up there and like present all my products, sit in a room, and like present products to people. So we did that. And then like another kind of 6, 8 months go by and I get a call and I'm standing in my little 2 bedroom apartment. I'm standing in the 1 bedroom that's my office, business, warehouse. And I get a call and they're like, so like they talk to me and everything, and they're like, so we want to launch you into all 180 locations. And I'm just like, they're like, can you do that? And like it's just me and my wife. I'm like, yeah, like so it's just I think when a big opportunity comes like that, you have to take the risk if that's what you want to do. Because that risk isn't coming around twice. If you tell them no, they're not going to come back later and be like, hey, have you figured it out yet? So it's really just taking risks. It's going to be stressful. It's not going to be fun at first because it's this whole new thing. I think packing that first order for them was probably the only time in my life where I had a nervous breakdown. So it's hard and a lot. Obviously you can grow things to different sizes. It doesn't have to be crazy. The first year or two I did it was just me and my wife and some friends doing markets, and I really just worked on the weekends, and that was really great. It doesn't have to grow into this big thing. Like I was doing just fine if it was just going to be me and my wife. I was doing just fine working on only weekends and doing markets.
Amazing, super exciting. Sorry, I have a ton of
I'm
coffee as
sorry, I can
always.
keep
I'm missing
talking too.
myself.
Sorry.
Okay, I
um,
think it's that season as well, when it's like coughing.
if there's other questions, I definitely answer those as well.
Yes, absolutely. So we have a question from Catherine, which is, what is your favorite product to design? And I'm gonna get a glass of water in the meantime.
So that's hard because like people, I think currently my favorite thing has been like these new coolers that we've been doing. They've been really cool. Actually, let me grab it real quick.
Yes, we want to see it. Show us the product.
So this isn't even really released yet, but we do these cooler bags that we've done. So, or I've done, I should say. Um, So it's a cooler bag for about an 18 pack, like just applying my artwork to a functional product that's gonna live like in their life. Like I love making those type of things. Like one of my favorite things to create is the stickers because it's a low cost, low entry fee item for somebody to get in touch with my brand. And this is my favorite thing that has ever happened to me with one of my products. So I was driving down the interstate, and obviously on the interstate it gets backed up. And I'm just sitting there minding my own business, and this wrecker goes by with a car on the back, not thinking two thoughts about it. But then I look up, and on the back of that wrecked car is a sticker of mine on the windshield, and I'm like, that thing is gonna go sit in a junkyard, and it's gonna be there long past I'm alive. And like for me, I don't know, like it's just so awesome because stickers just get everywhere. Like they get put in a drawer, like somebody's kid when they like parents aren't on this earth anymore, they'll find that thing in a drawer. Like I just think stuff like that is cool. Just I never know where those are gonna go. Like it's really the only thing that people will put on a notebook and they'll put on $100,000 car. Like it's just I just love the utility of that and where those things go.
Literally everywhere. It's amazing. And there is another question always from Catherine P asking, is there any product or are there any products you would like to design but haven't had the chance yet?
Oh, definitely. I really want to do like I've kind of done samples, but I want to do like custom sleeping bags with my artwork on them. I want to do there's so much backpacks I want to do. Camping chairs, like just covered in my artwork, I think would be really cool. There's so many things like with the outdoor camping lifestyle, like it's just kind of endless. So anything that's kind of functional and can be used and like somebody can live in, like that's the stuff I really love.
Amazing. And even talking of sticker, like there's so many collaboration as well that I think that they're out there, that can help you to work with other brands, just simply providing sticker with that aligns with whatever product you're a fan of.
Oh, sure. I mean, I got to work with Nalgene for a few different years, just making custom sticker designs for them to give away. So there's a lot of people looking for, especially larger companies like that, looking for items to do just as giveaways and things, especially like obviously they're a water bottle company, so people put stickers on their water bottles, and everybody has to have 12 water bottles these days. So, um, yeah, I mean it's just such a utility type of product, and it's just easy entry cost for people to get into, and it's also cheaper to make. So it's when you're starting a brand and you want to like make products, just start small. If you want to have physical products that you ship, start small, start something like that. It's just an easy way to test out if people like your artwork on a physical object, and it's not something that's gonna break your bank.
Amazing. So many amazing tips, and I have so many other questions to ask you. I know that we just got a few minutes before we wrap up. There is one question that I want to ask, because you talked about your journey as starting as a designer, and you're mega humble, and you can tell how much you're just driven by your passion for making everything that you do, and of course the lifestyle, and the topic of nature. But in terms of becoming an entrepreneur, right? Do you feel like you have to go by, and have you encountered any like serious challenge in an entrepreneur like chair, like, and
Yeah,
and
I
if so,
mean,
how did you overcome it?
yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just learning every year and dealing with all the new problems that come to mind, and like things with growing a business to a certain size. I mean, I definitely never thought from drawing that one day I would have employees and one day I would have to like let somebody go. Like that's like nothing I ever thought of, like somewhere where I would have to be as an artist. Like I just want to draw pictures. So there's a lot of areas you have to just, it's uncomfortable and you have to grow. That's just how it is.
Amazing. And I find incredible that it's pretty much an hour is already gone. We just literally got
No, it's
less
crazy.
than few minutes now left, and I want to remind everybody that if you would like to nominate yourself or someone that that you want to have it here in this spotlight on Adobe Live, you have to submit your recommendation on the tab that you can find on the BN's tab just on top of the chat. And of course, you can watch this stream on a replay on the Adobe Live YouTube channel. Where you can find so much more. In particular, we have the podcast with a wonderful Teresa Au that is there in the making. You can follow the entire season. But I have one more question. We have you here, and I'm going to take advantage to the max, because for all the people that are watching and are tuning in, what advice would you give them to effectively utilizing Photoshop for their creative journey, based, of course, on your own experience and success?
I mean, if it's not something that you have opened up and tried, I mean, Photoshop is crazy. I mean, the amount of things you can do in Photoshop now is absolutely insane. I mean, you can do editing video. I mean, there's so much stuff you can do. Get in the program, mess around with all the different styles, especially with brush packs now. I mean, just get in and mess around and find the things that you like. It doesn't have to be everything. Just find those few tools that you like to create your vision, and just don't be afraid of it. You got YouTube now, so just go to YouTube. You can find any tutorial in the world. Like I still have to do it after using the program for 25 years. I'm like, why is this grid here? Why won't it go away?
That's amazing. And is your vision like, did you always knew that you were gonna go on this sort of like style that you are, like it's something, did you ever like a vision since forever? Because as you say, like you got your own iconography. I think that's so well said. That's your style. Was this something, did you something that you now finally developed, or you had to like really work hard to get there, to get to that iconography style that
Oh,
you
it's
have?
grown and changed over the years many different times. Just since I've been doing the brand, I've had a couple different styles. So I think as you grow and learn, and as a creative, we're never satisfied where we're at. And we're always like, this looks terrible. I need to get better. So it's just it's developed over time. I think all styles do. You borrow from all different places, but styles always grow and change, I believe.
Amazing. And for those that are watching and they're like, aspire to follow your same path, what advice would you give to maybe, work with another designer that have more experience, just to go on their own, or maybe work with another entrepreneur based on their experience, or you can recommend someone just go on your own, start small, which of the two would you advise in terms of paths?
I think when you're starting, keep your job, create stuff after work, do some markets while you still have a job. That way, if there is a loss and it doesn't work, you're not out on the streets. Start small. Keep it. It doesn't have to be anything grand. You just need to see if it works. Don't jeopardize your whole life because you have this idea. Obviously, it can work out. It doesn't always work out. You have to keep that in mind as well.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to go ahead and check the chat to see if there are very any last question that I can grab from the chat. But, everybody is loving your work. Amber Creative says, go, Jimmy. He used to do a new design every day for years. So you guys work together. And we actually do a very last question from I think that comes from the YouTube, because it's Cody Bear put it in the chat here on Behance. How do you go about getting your product manufactured? See if we can squeeze this question in 2 minutes.
Well, I was lucky enough in my last job to create products for people. So I kind of had those different connections. But this day and age, you could just go on Google and be like, how do I make a sticker? How do I make a water? I mean, there's so many companies that are trying to get your business. So it's real easy. I mean, you don't even have to make physical products anymore yourself. You can just open up a shop and then people will make it for you and ship it out. Obviously, the margins are different, but there's so many different ways.
Oh, wow. Like I had no idea.
Yeah,
Like
print on demand stuff. It's great.
oh, I used to do a few things when I like just started, but I never found it like easy to I don't know. I never spent probably enough time
I mean,
researching.
making stuff is easy. Getting an audience and selling it, that's a whole other hour discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I love the advice that you talked about, the markets and just I'm doing like a quick recap before we have to say goodbye, unfortunately, because I was really enjoying it. I personally have a lot of curiosity now and a lot of questions for you myself. But I think that what you were talking about with the markets, I just wanted to reiterate for people, if you go out there, if you start to put your products out there, maybe a market doesn't resonate with you, don't run away, try a few more.
And there's a bunch of different ways. So I mean, that's just one way to do it.
Well, oh well, I was gonna dive into more questions, but unfortunately, it is time to wrap up and to say goodbye to everybody. First of all, thank you so much, Jimmy, for spending this hour together. I had a blast. I learned a ton, and I'm definitely gonna go and like find you online to buy some of your stickers and definitely the bear hat, which I adore. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you so much.
I
Thank
hope
you.
you had fun, and I hope that everybody here had a wonderful time. And you can come back and watch Adobe Live both on Behance and YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe on the YouTube channel. And now stay tuned because our lovely Itzy Poirier will take us into a deep dive into InDesign, showing how to craft the perfect design layout. So more creativity, more fun here on Adobe Live. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you very, very soon. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Ciao.